Hello, fictional. Welcome to the crossover What Ifs. Today we are gonna see, what if Naruto was the son of Dante? Part 1. Huge shout out to Ayodele PKA for this story. If you end up liking this video, please consider subscribe, so without further ado, let's get into the video. 2 millennium ago. There is a war between the human world and the underworld. But somebody from the underworld woke up to justice and stood up against this legion alone. His name was Sparta. Later, he quietly reigned the human world and continued to preserve harmony until his death. He became a legend, the legendary Dark Knight Sparta. Dark gloomy clouds covered the night sky. Rain beat down heavily on the earth without mercy. Few people with umbrellas wandered the wet streets heading home to retire for the night. Those who didn't have one or forgot to either had to take shelter or walk through the street unhindered by the rain. In a dark alley, a small boy sat alone in the rain with his knees hugged close to his chest. What should have been a vibrant blue eyes now looked almost dead. The boy sat down on the wet street's floor uncaring for the rain. The rain angrily beat down on this insolent child's body without mercy, but the boy could care less, after all, he had just escaped death and appeared in a new world. The boy, covered in rags, stared at his own reflection in a puddle of water. Blonde hair laid lazily on his head, his big baby blue eyes looked almost lifeless, his face was completely smooth and round filled with baby fats. There were scars and scratch marks on his face. 3 faint whisker marks lined both sides of his cheeks. His small frame went almost completely unnoticed by people who passed by the alleyway. Those who did notice could only cast pity glances at him, while some just completely ignore him. It was midnight by the time Dante had just completed another job by Lady. It had barely been a few months since the incident with Virgil and Arkham. They were still doing cleaning jobs after the incident. He had just opened his shop when Lady had given him a demon extermination job in a mansion. It didn't take him long to kill those low-level demons. It wasn't fun at all and he was currently in the mood of some strawberry sundae. Dante walked into a dark alleyway unhindered by the rain. He passed by a little blonde-haired boy when he felt a strong sensation from him causing him to stop in his track. This feeling. He turned around to look back at the small boy and walk back to him. The closer he got, the stronger the sensation. By the time he was standing in front of the boy, his senses were ringing loudly. There's no mistaking it. There's a demon in this child, and a powerful one at that. Dante felt the urge to pull out rebellion and end it before it started, but he decided against it. He squirted down in front of the boy who didn't seem to care about being stared at. Naruto raised his head to look at the white-head man squirting in front of him. Lifeless blue eyes met icy blue eyes, both curiously sizing up the other's owner. What is a demon child doing alone in the human world? Dante thought while observing the kid who looked like he'd rather die than live. Finally he decided to take the soft approach. What are doing alone in the rain? Dante gritted his teeth at his first failed attempt at having a conversation. He looked at the kid's face and noticed that he didn't seem to understand him, so he decided to try again, this time by making hand gestures. He pointed to a couple passing by and a kid. When he saw the kid look in the peel he indicated, he smiled and then pointed at the kid. Where is your family? He emphasized the word family so the boy could get a better understanding. Do you have one? Naruto shook his head at this. Although the white-haired man was acting strange, he could understand that he was trying to talk to him. Dante, seeing his reaction, looked visibly happy. He mentally patted himself on the back before making a shivering gesture and then pointed to the dark clouds and rain. Cold. The boy had a quicker response this time by giving him a short nod. He must have noticed that he was trying to help. Dante took off his coat and wrapped it around him before picking him up. You're safe now. A few hours later. Dante paced back and forth in his office lost in thought. His office was still under reconstruction, so he had no choice but to put Naruto to sleep on his newly acquired pool table, since the demons destroyed the last one during Virgil's last visit to the human world. Where the hell is she? The double-placed door of the building was pushed open, and a lady walked in. She wears a schoolgirl outfit with a short white blouse that bears her midriff and sleeves that reach just past her elbows. The skirt appears to be made of protective plating, and she has a utility belt to hold gun magazines, with dark black-purple shorts underneath. Connected to the belt is a harness for Kalina Ann. She carries a pistol on the front of her skirt and a Scorpion submachine gun with a bayonet on the back, with a lever-action bow gun of sorts strapped to her left thigh, and finally, a pistol strapped to her right boot. She wears dark brown gloves and orange-brown knee-high boots, with black socks under. She has the genetic condition called heterochromia, which render each of her eyes a different color. Her left eye is red, while her right eye is bluish-green. Her face could have been considered beautiful if not for the frown that had taken form on her face. Immediately her eyes landed on the Dante. She walked towards him with heavy footsteps. Lady. Dante's mood brightened up at the sight of his partner, the person he had been waiting for has finally arrived. Though the same couldn't be said for her. Dante. What the hell is this about a demon child? It's as I said over the telephone. Take a look yourself. He moved aside so she could see the blonde-haired kid sleeping on the pool table. Lady was startled when she saw the kid that looks like a 7-year-old human child. From what she could see, he looked no different than a human child. She returned her gaze from the child to stare at Dante in shock. He's like you, isn't he? A demon and a human hybrid. I was as shocked as you when I first found out. Me and my brother are the only known Nephilim to ever exist, and we spent most of our childhood running from demons. I can't imagine how hard it must have been for him with no one by his side. And you don't think he was left behind when the demon left the human world? Not at all. Lady looked lost in thought as she asked. Do you know anything about his parents or his name? Dante shook his head and said. Nothing. I found him in an alleyway on my way back from the job you gave me. He doesn't speak or understand our language. Lady sighed when she heard this. Things weren't going as planned, and the worst part is, this wasn't in the job description. So what do you plan to do with him? I plan to adopt him, was Dante's simple reply. Lady placed a hand on her hips and glared at him. Then why the hell am I here? Dante frowned lightly and gave her an honest answer. Because I don't know anything about raising a kid, so I need your help. Lady's glare intensified, wishing she could burn a hole in his head with her eyes alone. Does she look like a funking babysitter to him? She wanted to give him a piece of her mind, but her glare softened when she realized that the boy would never have a normal life as long as he is being hunted down by the demons. Fine. Dante was about to thank her profusely for accepting his request when her next words shut him up. I'm only doing this because of the kid, not you. Dante heard this, but he still could not get rid of the smile that appeared on his face. Although he knew almost nothing about raising a child, he just couldn't bring himself to abandon an innocent child. He and Lady spent the whole night making plans and arrangements while the child slept peacefully. Unbeknownst to Naruto, his life was about to change forever. Tap tap tap. The figure ran through a dark corridor with his coattail flowing behind him, followed closely by 5 shadows. The figure maneuvered through all the obstacles in the way with practice ease. The figure pulled out a gun from the holster on his back. A shadow jumped out of the shadow from the left. There was a flash of light as the man pulled the trigger, a loud noise echoed in the seemingly empty building, followed by the sound of metal hitting flesh. The shadow fell to the ground dead. The moonlight shined on the shadow from outside the window, revealing it to be some sort of deformed creature with a bullet wound in its head. The figure twisted around, a broadsword appearing in his right hand. He charged at the other ghouls, swinging the broadsword as if it was as light as a feather. Gunshots and loud cries resounded across the whole building with the occasional flashes of light. The figure stood over the dead bodies of the ghouls, his blade dripping blood. The moonlight landed on him from over the window. Blue eyes look indifferent at the dead ghouls on the floor from underneath blonde locks, ignoring the pool of blood forming underneath his feet. Unlike the first time he arrived in this world, his eyes had finally regained their shine. Naruto stood there in the pool of blood, his black two-tailed coat flapping with the wind. Underneath the coat he wears a white button-down shirt, black pants, black shin-high boots, a black jacket with a purple ends on the sleeve, and black cloak. His shirt is half-buttoned, leaving his chest exposed and the shirt cuffs unbuttoned and folded up. On his pants, he wears 2 beige belts with 6 silver studs on the top one, while the lower one has silver chain hanging off it. His jacket has lapel flaps, and the sleeves are folded up to his elbows. Also on his jacket, he has 3 silver pins on his right lapel in the shape of a hexagon, a rectangle, and the sun respectively. He also wears a necklace with an Uzumaki symbol pendant. His cloak has purple on the inside and has open collars folded downward. On his left arm, he wears a simple beige bracelet and a black fingerless glove. With a twist of his hand, he slashed the blood off his sword. Although it's been 9 years since his arrival in this world, a lot of things have happened since then. It took time, but he finally learned a great deal about this world and the so-called underworld. He stared at the Smith Wesson Model 460, which was a gift from Lady for his 15th birthday, while the blade was from Dante. He named it Limbo and Purgatory respectively. If only they could see what a true demon looks like, maybe they would have left me alone. Alas, the past is the past, there is no use thinking about it. I should probably head back now, before Dante spends all my payment on Strawberry Sundae. It didn't take long for Naruto to arrive back at their building. He walked up the stairs, but noticed that the door had been broken in. What the hell? He walked into the building and of all the things he had expected to see, this wasn't one of them. The place looked like an hurricane had passed through it, destroying everything in its wake. There were 2 people inside the people and one of them was Dante. Unlike 10 years ago, Dante was wearing a red pants with 2 black belts wrapped around his right thigh, a black leather belt, black gloves, and high black boots. Dante's coat is much basic in design, with an upturned collar and short sleeves with black cuffs, though the coat lacks coattails. Underneath the coat, Dante wears what appears to be a black long-sleeved shirt with a red vest with black clasps over it. He has a gun holster behind his back underneath the coat. Currently said guns pointed at the other person on the floor. The lady's lengthy blonde hair spread on the floor. She wore black sunglasses and has a very fair complexion. Her hair is parted slightly to the right at the front and her wore a black corset with a lightning bolt design that leaves much of her chest bare. She has on black leather pants with a double belt and black knee-high boots. She accessorizes this outfit with a choker, a fabricated gauntlet on her left forearm, and a pair of sunglasses. Am I interrupting something? Two heads turned as one to look at him. Kid, you are back. There's another one. Who is that, Dante? His hand inched closer to his gun as he asked. Although he didn't know what was going on, it was never a good thing when Dante points his gun at someone. Exactly what I'd like to know. She kept quiet for a few seconds before standing up. It seems that way. But I'm not your enemy. My name is Trish. Even after saying that Dante didn't put down his gun but she didn't mind. I came to seek for your help to put an end to the underworld. She took off her sunglass, giving them a full view of her face that left them both shocked. She looks just like. Naruto couldn't help but hold his breath, but Dante was even more shocked since the face he was looking at was that of his dead mother. 20 years ago, Mundus, the emperor of the underworld, resurrected. Mundus? Dante was surprised hearing that name again, but Naruto was confused since he didn't know who it was. Yes. His powers were sealed by Sparta. He's attempting to gain control of the human world once again. He's been preparing to open the gate on Millet Island. I see. Then I'll help you put him to sleep and make sure he never wakes up again. Naruto turned to Dante with determination and said, let me go with you, Dante. Not a chance, kid, it's gonna be dangerous. I'm not that weak kid you rescued 10 years ago. I already know how to fight and protect myself. I can control my powers now. Dante sighed. It's not gonna be the same little demons that you have been fighting. I know. I can handle it. This is what you prepared me for, right? Before Dante could refute him, Trish interrupted him. You should let him come. The more the merrier. You see, Naruto grinned at him. Alright, but I'm not babysitting you. Dante finally relented. Got it? Dante ignored him and turned to Trish. So when do we leave? Immediately. Millet Island. Dark clouds filled the sky, covering the whole island and blocking out the sun. Crows flew around the dark sky. Their deafening caws could be heard across the wild island. Naruto, Dante and Trish stood in front of a huge double gate entrance of a castle. After standing there for a few seconds, Naruto turned to Trish and asked, so, do we knock? Boom. A dull sound filled their ear as Dante kicked open the door. I guess that works too. Trish pointed at the cliff above them and said. The castle is up this cliff. Come on, let's go. Not giving them time to reply, she jumped up and over the edge of the cliff, leaving the both of them behind. A frown appeared on Naruto's face. So much for showing us the way. Should we follow? Dante shook his head no. Let's move at our own pace. Dante didn't seem to mind and continued the walk up the narrow road leading up to a hole in the side of the castle. Naruto followed closely behind him. It didn't take them long to reach the human-size hole leading inside the castle. Immediately they walked into the castle hall, the entrance behind them sealed shut on its own, becoming a part of the wall. This castle is huge, Naruto said as glance around the huge hall of the castle. Guess we'll have to find our way through. With Dante taking the lead, they searched through the doors on the ground floor until they eventually made it to a room with a puppet holding an old rusty key. Realizing that it was the key to one of the closed door on the ground floor, Dante picked it up. Immediately the key left its hands, the puppet reacted, gaining a blood-red aura and charged at Dante. It didn't make it far before it was taken down by a headshot. Dante glanced at Naruto, who had a beepy look on his face. You should watch your back. At this moment another gunshot resounded through the small room, a puppet fell down from the roof to the floor, shattering into pieces. Ivory still had smoke coming out of its barrel. Naruto looked from the puppet pieces to Dante, who has a smile on his face. What a coincidence. I was just about to say the same thing. TSK. After losing his chance to one-up Dante, they returned back to the giant hall again, this time using the rusty key to open a blue door that was locked before, and continued onward. After searching and fighting some more marionette puppets, they arrived at a room where they found a big blue circle surrounded by runes in a corner of the room. Dante, not being a stranger to this sort of puzzles, walked up to the circle and proceeded to slash it multiple times with rebellion until the rune symbols were fully lit, lowering the round elevator below Dante's feet down. Naruto jumped onto the elevator once it started moving. They arrived in a large empty area that looks like an arena with a gate on each side. Once they got off the elevator and stepped foot into the room, the elevator moved back up. There is no going back up now. That should be the least of your worries. Dante pointed at the marionette puppets dropping from the roof with rebellion. The doors on all sides opened up, releasing more cursed puppets. I guess you are right. A devilish smile appeared on his face, which was reflected by Dante. Let's rock. Dante charged in with a stinger, impaling 3 puppets and shattering them like glass. Naruto pulled out Purgatory and Limbo, charging into the crowd of cursed puppets. His sword draw an arc, cutting through the demons like hot knife through butter. His gun and sword worked together in perfect synchrony, slashing and opening holes in the cursed puppets' bodies. Naruto and Dante worked together like a pair of slippers, covering and back each other up, even though they didn't need to. Dante grabbed Force Edge, took a stance and sent the sword flying around the arena in a roundabout, cutting all the cursed puppets in its way before returning to his hand. They fought through the wave of demons like grim reapers harvesting souls. They fought for a while before finally ending the wave of cursed puppets. Bang. Dante shot down the last of the cursed puppet before placing Ebony back in its holster. Well, that was fun. Says the man who killed less puppets than me. You wanna play, kid? Cause I seem to remember having to cover for your ass more than once. Naruto scoffed at him. That was your choice, not mine. Dante rolled his eyes at his word. He was about to retort to his words when the elevator came back down. Whatever you say, kid. Come on, we still have work to do. When they arrived back in the room, there were cursed puppets already waiting for them, and the 2 of them didn't keep them waiting for long as they quickly got to work. After clearing all the puppets, the red door at the end of the room suddenly let out a red glow. A giant pale hand stretched out of the door before shattering like glass, the fragments disappearing. What was that just now? Naruto shouted, shocked at the scene that had just taken place. Dante, however, wasn't surprised. In fact, he had actually expected it. That's a sealed door. It requires for a certain condition to be met before it can be opened. If the puzzle isn't solved, it will attack you if you get too close. The sealed door. They are trap door made by demons to prevent eventually into certain areas. Come on. Dante gave him a light tap on the shoulder. Let's keep moving. They walked past the door into a long narrow hallway. There were doors on both sides, placed a few distance apart from each other. They tried opening the doors as they walked through the hallway, but they were all locked. They continued through the hallway before they were ambushed by cursed puppets popping out of magic circles. They didn't hold back and attacked the puppets head on. No matter how many puppets they killed, more just keeps popping out of magic circles. This continued for a while before they stopped appearing. After clearing the puppets, they continued through the hallway before arriving in front of a statue of a female in agony at the end of the hall, with a sword in her chest and a door to their left. Is that a sword? Naruto walked closer to statue to take a better look. There are words written at the bottom of the statue. For real? Dante looked at him in surprise. What does it say? I am Alastor. The weak shall give their heart and swear their eternal loyalty to me. The statue suddenly disappeared, leaving only the sword now stabbing into the wall behind. It crackled with lightning and flew out of the wall. Look out! Naruto moved out of the way, but Dante wasn't so lucky. The sword stabbed into his chest, pinning him to the ground. Dante? Alright. Dante pulled Alastor out of his chest and got back up to his feet. His body crackled with lightning when he grabbed the hilt of Alastor. He raised the sword and a huge lightning bolt come crashing down on him, shattering the stained glass above him. Talk about flashy! Naruto's eyes sparkled at the sight of the thunderbolt. After a few seconds, the thunderstorm around him finally calmed down. Dante gave Alastor a few test drive before turning to look at Naruto with a smile. So what do you think? In one word. Shocking. Dante nodded. I'd say it's not a bad sword. He placed Alastor on his back before approaching the door to their left. Let's keep moving. I still can't believe Trish ditched us, Naruto whined. Dante rolled his eyes at his words. You were the one who insisted to come. It's not too late to go back. Never. Then quiet your whining and let's go. Fine. He finally relented, but his eyes were glued to Alastor as he followed behind Dante. I wish I had a cool sword like that. The room they entered this time was a library. They searched around before for some time, finding a key and a shotgun, which Dante handed to Naruto, his reason being that he already had 2 guns. This key should probably open one of the doors in the hall. Then what are we waiting for? Let's go. They walk out of the library and return back to the hallway and found the door that matches the key. They spent the rest of the day moving, fighting and searching around the castle. Sometimes discovering hidden locations. After an arduous journey, they finally arrived at a cathedral where there was a small object glowing blue light on an altar. Naruto walked up the aisle to get a better look at the object in the light. He reached out a hand to touch it. What the hell is that? Naruto, wait. Dante, seeing this, tried to stop him, but it was too late. A beam of light shot out from object, hitting the door opposite it and shattering the demon seal on the door. Naruto scratched his head while laughing sheepishly. Sorry. But at least the seal on the door is broken. Dante facepped him. You idiot. Do you even know what the beam of light even means? You've just triggered a trial mission. Naruto looked lost for words when he heard this. What? Sigh. This kid needs to learn to keep his hands to himself. Let's just get this over with. The worst part about triggering a trial mission is that it had to be completed before you can be allowed to leave. And to say that the trial was easy is an overstatement, cause it was too easy. They exited the cathedral through the newly opened door to a bridge outside. They crossed the bridge to the other side and examined the tablet in the middle of the structure. Not finding anything special about it, they make their way back to the cathedral only for the bridge to collapse halfway, dropping them into the water below. There was a pathway under the water which they followed to the right quickly to reach a circle in the center. Immediately they set foot on it activated summoning 6 Sargasso, or giant skulls to attack them. Dante and Naruto go into action sending bullets flying all over the place. The Sargasso didn't last under the rain of bullets. After the last of them was killed, a magic circle lit up in the middle of the room. Is that it? Naruto looks puzzled as it didn't even take them 10 seconds to clear the trial. I guess so, Dante shrugged, not caring since he has his eyes set on a way bigger fish. He stepped onto the center platform in the room, warping him away. Naruto sighed before stepping into the circle as well, appearing back on the bridge above. The bridge is now broken, but he was warped to the cathedral side. Dante was already making his way to the door, so he quickly rushed to catch up. Hey. Wait for me. He glared at Dante when he caught up to him. You can't just keep leaving me behind, Dadabeo. Then try to keep up. Dante ignored the glare on his face as they make their way back into the cathedral. Dante walked up the cathedral and retrieved the small square-shaped object to the image on both sides, which is the Pride of Lion from the altar. Boom. Immediately he took the Pride of Lion, a giant figure came crashing down from the roof. What the? Naruto dived toward the aisle in time just before the giant figure landed on the ground, revealing it to be a giant spider with a body made out of lava and a scorpion tail. Naruto grinned at the sight of the giant spider. Finally, a boss fight. Unlike what people would expect, he wasn't scared. In fact, he was excited. This was no longer the cannon folder that they had been fighting. It was the real deal. Phantom roared before moving closer to them. It growled another small one. Naruto raised a brow in surprise it can talk. I sense something a little bigger. What a disappointing catch. Dante smirked. What a big surprise. I hope you got something inside that big body of yours. He knocked on the head, angering it. You puny pathetic thing. I'll step on you like an ant. Phantom attacked them with one of its limbs, but they both avoid the attack by jumping over him. This should be fun. Dante placed his hand on Alastor and made to move but was stopped by Naruto. Let me handle it, Dante. Are you sure? I've been itching for a boss fight. In fact. Dottie looked up at the giant spider and smirked. I want to see how well I compare to a real demon. Dante stared at him for a few seconds before relenting. Sigh. If you say so, Dante said before moving to the edge of the cathedral. I human. Phantom charged at Naruto, its front leg already in mid-swing. Bring it. Purgatory met the let midway, causing a gust of wind to explode with them at the center. Naruto's hand felt a little numb after blocking the attack. Strong. Puny human. Phantom didn't pull any punches as it attacked Naruto, forcing him to be on the defense. Dante silently watched from the sideline, not moving an inch, but he was prepared to make a move if the situation calls for it. Ahahaha. Weak. Shit. Naruto blocked the strike from its leg with the flat side of his sword. The force behind the attack sent him flying into one of the pillars. I didn't want to do this, but you leave me with no choice. His sky blue eyes turn red with slit. Red bubbles pop out of his body, covering him in a red cloak. 3 tails made of the same bubble move behind him. The bubbles forming 2 horns appeared on top his head in the way manner. What is that? The Phantom's eyes widened when the human in front of it suddenly released a demonic aura. How is that possible? Is he really a human or a demon? If so, how come I didn't sense the demonic presence before? The inner monologue was disrupted when Naruto kicked off against the ground, charging at it with speed that left it speechless. The Phantom swung one of its legs at him, helping to slow him down. Naruto flashed out of the way of the attack, and the next second the spider leg was cut completely off. The Phantom screeched in pain, retreating back a few steps. Naruto didn't let up and took the initiative to charge at it. The Phantom, seeing this, threw everything it had at him, but he dodged it effortlessly. Naruto put Purgatory in a reverse grip, red aura gathering and condensing around the sword. Dante's eyes lit up when he saw this. Once the aura condensed to the limit, Naruto let it fly in the form of a vertical slash. Overdrive. The attack move was so fast that the spider didn't have enough time to retreat or dodge. The Phantom felt threatened by the attack and quickly escaped through a lava pit in the floor. The energy wave sliced through the pillars and disappeared into the wall, leaving a clear mark on it. Clap, clap, clap. Naruto looked up when he heard someone clapping. Not bad, Naruto. You managed to scare him off. Naruto turned to look at the slash mark in the wall. I still can't believe that he managed to escape it. Dante scoffed, slapping him behind the head, causing him to stumble forward. What the hell, Dante? He blurted out. The back of his head felt like it got hit by a train. What's with that face? Unlike the last time you actually managed to send it flying without it blowing up in your face. That's an improvement. Naruto pouted after being reminded of his first time trying the overdrive. I guess so. Dante placed a hand on his shoulder. You'll get him next time. Now let's keep moving. Okay. Naruto and Dante walk out of the cathedral back into the hallway. They walk through the hallway when the ground under their feet started shaking. What the hell? Humans, the phantom ran towards them from the other side of the hallway, shooting fireballs at them, causing them to move out of the way. Naruto looked strangely at Dante. Since when can Dante now foresee the future? Well, that happened sooner than expected. Leave this one to me. Dante walked forward, his body giving off a purple glow. Alastor crackled with lightning. Phantom was startled when it saw the demonic aura around Dante. This one too. It was already at a disadvantage because the hallway was too small for it to move its body freely, and it could only shoot out fireball from its mouth, which was futile. It already had a hard time fighting one of them, so it was stupid enough to think it could fight the both of them in an enclosed space. "You're annoying." Alastor give off arc a light blow, lightning dancing around its edge. Dante got into a familiar stance. The phantom immediately recognized the stance, having seen the blonde man do it. It could still remember that ominous feeling behind the attack, and its senses was telling it that this one was way more powerful. It didn't hesitate anymore and quickly escaped through the floor. Naruto shook his head when he saw this. That guy sure knows how to run. Dante smirked at his words. He's just a small fry, we don't have to waste our time with him. Right. There's still that Mundus guy. Dante nodded. So we better hurry up. The Dark Knight. Their journey led them to the courtyard where there was a lion statue, a force field around it. The pride of lion in Dante's possession reacted to it, flying into the statue and dispelling the force field around it. The lion statue eyes light up and a dark aura surrounded it. Naruto stared at the dark aura and said. What the hell is that? His answer came in the form of a powerful guillotine attack, forcing the both of them to roll out of the way. The statue slowly collapsed on itself, revealing a new demon, a shadow-like cat demon. It's a new demon. The surprise could be heard in Naruto's voice, since they had never encountered such a demon before. Dante chuckled and said. Doesn't matter either way, since it won't be around for long. Naruto nodded, his eyes trained on the shadow, a glint in his eyes. At least we finally get to fight something new. And just like he said, the shadow's attack was completely different to what they were used to. It had several attacks. It can perform the already seen guillotine, spinning in the air before crashing down to the ground, and turn into a form resembling a Venus flytrap to bite at Dante. At long range it can transform its body into a long spear which extends almost instantaneously. It can also enter an invincible shadow state where it is just a flat form on the ground with glowing red eyes. It uses this form to either evade damage, reposition itself, or perform an attack where it conjures dark spears up from the ground. One more thing was that shadow is immune to melee weapon damage in its current state and will perform an automatic counter against any melee attack. Something Naruto had to learn the hard way. Since blades were useless against it, they could only use their guns, shooting and moving around the fountain room, while also evading the shadow's attack. At one point in the battle it turned into a spherical glowing core, making it vulnerable to sword attacks and immune to gun attacks, while generating dark spears attack at their feet. They had to repeatedly push the core backwards by hitting it, ensuring that the spears missed their mark. After taking a round of attacks, the shadow enters a very dangerous dying state where it turns red and becomes extremely fast and aggressive. A heartbeat sound can be heard during this state. It has a strong preference for using the Venus flytrap attack at this point in the battle, with good reason. If it catches a person at this point, it will self-destruct with person inside it, dealing massive damage. They moved around, evading it, not giving it a chance to catch any of them in a trap. After a while of chasing them, it exploded. That was fun. Naruto laughed after watching the shadow explode. Even Dante could not help but agree with his words. It was actually nice fighting something apart from puppets for once. Naruto walked to the fountain to wash his face and have a drink. He sighed in bliss at the refreshing feeling of the life-sustaining liquid moving down his throat. Dante only took a quick sip since he can go a month without having to drink water. After catching their breath, they went through the small metal door on the back wall of the fountain room which leads into a tall tower. After making their way through the tower and up a flight of stairs, they entered in a room that looks like a living quarter with a divinity statue beside the door. The Castellan's private room. Naruto walked up to the statue of a nun in the wall with a glowing object in its mouth and inserted the sword they found into the sword mark in a chest. They heard a click and the round glowing ornament dropped from its mouth. Naruto noticed something different about Dante's reflection in the mirror when he bent down to pick the melancholy soul. Alastor released lightning around it, alerting Dante as well. He turned around to face his reflection in the mirror. His reflection was looking at him with a smile on its face. Dante watched his reflection make its way out of the mirror while taking a few steps back. Naruto looked surprised when he saw this. Dante's reflection transformed into a humanoid figure with a heavy olive green jade green colored armor with blue, pulsating lines running across it and a purple cape. His helmet is engraved with a humanoid face with glowing orange eyes. The helmet also has red and blue horns protruding from the top, thus framing his face. It also has round shoulder pauldrons, a pointed chestplate, and greaves with spiked kneepads. It has a massive broadsword on its back. Dante raised an eyebrow when he saw this, but then he smiled after he felt its demonic powers. This stinkin' hole was the last place I thought I'd find anyone with some guys. The Dark Knight ignored his words and walked a few steps towards the open balcony door. He gestured for Dante to follow before jumping out of the balcony door into the courtyard. Dante made his way to the balcony overlooking the courtyard. Naruto moved to follow but was stopped by Dante. "Leave this one to me." Dante didn't wait for him to reply before jumping into the courtyard. Naruto found when he heard that. As much as he hates to admit it, he had also felt the powerful aura around the demon and knew that he'd only get in the way if he insisted on helping. Although he could now control his demonic chakra, 5 tails was still his limit. If he tries to go any higher than that, he'll lose control. He doubted 5 tails would help me much in this fight. He had been forced to use of 3 tails before he was able to match the spider. From the aura of this demon, it was definitely more power than the giant spider. Naruto walked to the edge of the balcony overlooking the courtyard where Dante was already fighting the demon. Their blades create sparks every time they collided with each other. Clang. 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 With every swing, Alastor sends out a flash of lightning. The battle was so intense to the point that Dante had his demonic aura out, but it wasn't enough to make him go full demon. The Dark Knight teleported all around the courtyard like a phantom. His speed could match that of Naruto in his 3 tails cloak form if not surpass it. The battle was on a whole different level to what Naruto was used to. He watched them fight all the way up the castle. They fight all around the courtyard, even moving up the castle wall. The courtyard became a battlefield in less than a minute. Sword marks appeared all over the courtyard. Dante's lightning-quick reflections countered Nelo's teleportation. The two were evenly matched for the entirety of the match, which was something that Naruto had never seen before. The Dark Knight made a mistake in its defense, leaving a gap in its defense. Dante took advantage of it and attacked him with a slash to the stomach, bringing the Dark Knight to a knee. It's over. He aimed the next at his neck, but what he didn't expect was for Nelo to jump over the attack and proceeded to disarm him before engagingly in close combat. Dante managed to hold his own for a few seconds, but a spin kick from the Dark Knight caught him by surprise, which sent him flying into a nearby wall. The Dark Knight grabbed him in a chokehold and pinned him to the wall. Naruto's eyes widened. Dante was defeated. This was his first time seeing Dante lose a fight. Dante grabbed onto the hand choking him. His sudden arm movement caused his half of the perfect amulet to dangle out of his coat. The Dark Knight noticed the subtle movement, but when he set his eyes on the pendant, something snapped inside his head. It tossed Dante aside and grabbed onto its head in pain. Lightning danced around its body and it slowly floated off the ground, turning into a colorful flame. It floated in the air for a few seconds before flying away. Shit, Dante frowned. He had underestimated his opponent too much, and it had cost him. "Are you okay, Dante?" He looked to his left to see Naruto making his way to him. He sighed, stood up to his feet and dusted off his coat. "I'm fine. Just a little ruffled up." Although he said that, he still couldn't take his mind off the demon's reaction to his necklace. Naruto sighed. "I still can't believe you lost." Dante picked up Alastor, frowned and said. "That was my fault for underestimating the enemy." Naruto turned to look in the direction Nelo left in. "I wonder how strong this Mundus guy is, if he has someone as strong as that working under him." Dante shook his head and said. "Well, no matter how strong he is, we can't let him succeed in opening a portal to the underworld. So do you know what this does?" Dante looked at the melancholy soul in Naruto's hand. "That's a melancholy soul, an item resembling a soul. I believe I saw something similar on our way here. Let's go." He turned to look at the horizon for a few seconds before they returned back to the room and out the door they came through. Dante led them down the long stairs, reaching a door at the bottom of the stairs by the right. The metallic door had the imprint of a lion head roaring with a small hole in its mouth. Naruto walked over and placed the melancholy soul in its mouth, which was a perfect fit. The door slid up, revealing a passageway leading into an underground sewer. They proceed through the tunnel, eventually entering a door which leads to a large room surrounded by sewer pipes, with an item gleaming in one of the pipes on the far side of the room, which is the rusty key. Picking it up, however, triggers a trap with the arrival of a new enemy, the Beelzebub. These giant bugs come in two forms. The smaller blue ones will fly around erratically and occasionally either perform a rushing slash attack with their forelimbs or vomit what appear to be maggots. These actually represent an evil power that prevents them from using their firearms while they are on them. The larger green and brown ones cannot fly, instead using melee attacks. If the larger Beelzebubs encounters the corpse of its comrades, it will devour it and enter a powered-up state resembling the devil trigger that makes it more dangerous. The green Beelzebubs also have a grapple attack, but this can only be used if they are behind someone. The battle was a little tricky since this was their first time fighting monster who are well coordinated and can use devil trigger. The small one were easy picking, the real problem was the big ones that can use DT. The both of them had to use their DT and spend a lot of effort to fight the DT bugs. The battle lasted a while, but they managed to clear all the bugs. They exited the room after defeating the group of Beelzebubs, only to find out that the main tunnel is now full of them too. The battle this time, unlike before, was much easier. After defeating them, they make their way towards the door at the end of the tunnel and unlock it using the rusty key. This leads into the second section of the waterways where they encountered a Death Scissors, which is a stronger version of the Sin Scissors, one of the lesser demons they fought previously, wielding a massive and deadly pair of shears. Just like its brethren, the ram's skull the creature has for a head was its weakness, but unlike its lesser brethren, it is not particularly vulnerable to firearms. They created a barrier around them preventing them from escaping, not that they planned to anyway. The shotgun and limbo work magic serving to cover for Dante, who took the role of vanguard. In its normal state, it attacks in a similar manner to a Sin Scissors, though it is far more aggressive. It typically either performs a forward slice or double slice with its shears or spins them around itself. In the latter case, it has a single spin version and a move powerful variant where it spins its scissors around once, pauses, and then spins them 3 times quickly. The Death Scissors cannot block while attacking, which was one of its flaws. Its block also knocks its shears aside, so a rapid follow-up attack usually prevents it from guarding again. After taking a beating, the Death Scissors head becomes surrounded by flames. In this state, the creature is invulnerable. It starts to spin around with the scissors held out in front of it and perform its signature corkscrew attack. In this attack, it moves in and out of the barrier as it makes 2 or 3 rapid passes, each in a straight line, dealing damage to whatever it touches. It appeared again come in for one final attack, which was blocked by Dante before it returned to its normal state. In this area, there was always a line of splashes in the water ahead of it as it moves, showing where it is coming from. The demon was tough, but with the two of them working together, it was only a matter of time before it was defeated. After killing the demon, the rest was a simple matter. They proceeded to the altar around the corner and pick up the guiding light, which is a key with a sun-like design. Dante felt an electric jolt all of his body when he picked up the guiding light. Information of the key filled his mind, pointing him in a certain direction. The now active guiding light constantly drains Dante's power. They double back down the tunnels and head back the way Dante came in the previous mission. As Dante gets close to the door, Phantom puts in another appearance, in the same corridor form as before. "Die maggots. You again." Naruto's hand moved to grab his sword, but Dante stopped him. "We don't have time for that. Let's go." Naruto gritted his teeth and glared at the Phantom. As much as wanted to deal with it once and for all, he knew that Dante was right. But the Phantom wasn't on the same page as them. It shot fireballs at them, causing them to dodge while running. They managed to escape through a door at the end of the tunnel. What's with a webhead always showing up only to run away right after? Naruto complained after they managed to escape from the spider. He wished they could have just stayed behind to teach the giant spider a lesson or two about showing up uninvited. Dante shook his head. It's only a matter of time before he gets what's coming for him. He was also starting to find it annoying. "I sure hope so. Next time I won't let it get away." Proceeding back out into the large tunnel which now hosts insides. These enemies are keeping the exit door to the tall tower sealed, so they had to defeat them before they could progress further. Once they were all defeated, the seal on the door came undone. Regardless, they exit the sewer and back into the tall tower. There were Beelzebubs at the foot of the stairway with an elevator and a wheel device like the one they used before. Naruto groaned at the sight of the Beelzebubs. "Great. More bugs. Just what we needed." "Quite, you're talking and start moving." Dante pulled out ebony and ivory and put them to work. Gunshots echoed in the room. They were like grinders slicing the bugs into pieces. They fought through the wave of Beelzebubs as they needed to be defeated first so that they could focus on the wheel device. The elevator brought them up to the entrance of the room where they met the Dark Knight. They entered the room and right next to the mirror that Nelo Angelo came out of was a wall panel with the same sun insignia as the guiding light in the Castellan's bedroom with something written under it. "That should be it." Dante used the guiding light to open wall panel and reveal a door behind it, but he didn't rush to open it. He turned to Naruto and said, "Let's take a break." Naruto nodded and sat on the ground with his back rested against the bed wooden frame, while Dante sat down on the bed. They entertained a few minutes of silence before Naruto asked a question that has been bugging him. "You seem really concerned about this Mundus guy, but you have never spoken about him before." Dante was quiet for a few seconds, silently contemplating before he said, "Because I hoped that I would never have to." Naruto turned to look at him with a puzzled expression. "Why?" Dante sighed dejectedly, remembering his darkest hour. "I lost my family to Mundus. I watched him kill my mother and eat her heart right in front of me." Naruto's expression darkened when he heard that. "I am sorry to hear that. I should never have asked." "It's alright." Trish's timely appearance was like a blessing in disguise. Speaking of Trish, Naruto looked outside the window and into the horizon. "Where do you think she is?" Dante followed Naruto's gaze to stare at the horizon. "I can't say. But she better not think of skipping my payments." Naruto laughed at his words. "Now you sound like lady. Must have rubbed off on me." "No kidding." They talked for a few more minutes before Naruto eventually drifted off to sleep. His fatigue from moving and fighting all week finally catching up to him. Dante looked at him for a few minutes before returning his gaze to stare at the horizon. "I hope you are doing fine, wherever you are, brother." Tap. 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 "Kid, wake up." Naruto yawned and stretched out his body, audible pop sound was heard followed by a refreshing feeling. He rubbed his sleepy eyes before opening them. Dante bent down in front of him with a hand in his shoulder. "Did you sleep well?" It was then it occurred to him. He looked at the sky outside and asked. "How long was I asleep?" "A few hours." Naruto turned to look at him in disbelief. "That long? Why didn't you wake me?" Dante shook his head. "I was the one who said we should rest before we continue, and you did just that. Come on. We have to keep moving." "Okay." Moving through the door they opened previously using the guiding light, they came to a narrow platform above the main hall they had been to before, with a gap separating them from the door on the other side of the narrow platform. They long jump across the gap and entered the door into a room with a divinity statue and an upper floor which had a door. They jump up to the platform and proceed through the door, reaching a circular arena with a closed gate. In the middle of the circular arena is a circular stained glass. Naruto looked up at open sky, and then the surrounding this looks like the rooftop. "Seems like it," Dante said while glancing around. He felt that something was not right. Thud. They turned around when they heard a rock fall behind them. The huge spider form of the Phantom appeared in their line of sight. "Webhead. You finally showed up." Phantom jumped and landed in front of them with fire burning all over its body. It roared at them and said recess time is over, humans. Here there's plenty of room to get real nasty. This time, there is no holding back. Naruto grinned beepily. The red cloak already taking form around his body, but this time he has 5 tails waving behind him. Took the words right out of my mouth. "Dante?" Dante shook his head at his eager voice and said. "He is all yours." "Die." Purgatory countered the strike from its leg. A gust of wind blew with them at the center. "Don't disappoint me. Spidey." Naruto swung Purgatory pushing its leg back. He charged at the spider and attacked with lightning fast move that it could barely react to. The Phantom was like a leaf in a storm, unable to do anything but get kicked around. The difference between 5 tails and 3 was already displaying itself. As before, it is completely vulnerable to attacks on his abdomen and mouth, which Naruto capitalized on. The special thing about his block was that he could extend it like a part of his body, so all its weaknesses were open for him to exploit. Sparks flew every time the two clash against each other, sending out small gusts of wind. Naruto maneuvered through Phantom's attacks, sometimes blocking those he could avoid. Dante watched from the sidelines like before, being the only audience of their fight. He pinned the Phantom legs with his tails, incapacitating it and leaving it open for a round of combos. The cloak weakened visibly after the round of attacks, one of his tails receded back, leaving him with only 4. Naruto cursed when he felt a drop in his power. Although the 5 tails could give him a massive power boost, he could only use it for 3 minutes, after that he will slowly lose his cloak form. The Phantom noticed this and used this opportunity to free itself. It leaped into the air hoping to small Naruto within to paste with its body. "You're mine. Naruto. Look out." Crack. Dante pulled Naruto out of the way in the nick of time as the Phantom landed on the glass, shattering it under its weight and fall into the hole. The Phantom fell through the hole and impaled itself on a pointed rock. Even as it felt agony from being impaled, it turned to look at Dante looking down on it from the roof with Naruto. It was now that the demonic aura around him felt familiar. "You're not an ordinary human. What are you?" Taking a closer look, a humanoid demon image overlapped with Dante. "No, the legendary Sparta. It can't be." "You're right, I'm his son, Dante." Sweet dreams. Naruto stared at the slowly decomposing phantom and said. Now I won't have to worry about seeing your stupid face anymore. Dante slapped his shoulder with a proud smile on his face. You did well, kid. I didn't do much. Stop acting humble and just roll with it. The two of them slowly walk away from the broken glass, unaware of Trish watching them from below. She had a surprised look on her face. The kid defeated the phantom unbelievable. She had seen everything that had transpired and to be honest she was caught by surprise. She had only considered Dante to be a threat, but who knew that the kid was also like him? A human with demon blood. She stared at the destroyed glass one more time before walking away. I need to correct my evaluation of that kid. After exiting the arena through the now open gate and dropped down to an area with two horse statues with a human-sized crack in the floor between them and Atridon stabbed into the ground in front of them. They dropped through the crack in the floor into a room with the castle's drawbridge mechanism. Dante kicked the lever to open the drawbridge. Making their way around the mechanism they found a skeleton resting against the wall holding a grenade gun beside an hatch in the floor. Naruto picked up the grenade gun and handed it over to Dante since he didn't like the weight of the gun in his hands. They opened the hatch and climbed down the ladder to another room. Inside the small room is a device with 3 small holes. A statue of a head with its mouth wide open rested against the wall behind the device. A small gap separated the statue from the device. A double door rested to the far left corner of the room. 2 short pillars a few feet apart stood in the middle of the room opposite the device with a narrow space on the ground in between them. Dante to the device by the wall and stabbed the trident in his hand into the holes on the device. Swoosh. Clanking. Water rushed out of the mouth of the statue. The chains on the pillars started moving pulling up a portcullis from the gap in the ground. Dante jumped out the portcullis to Naruto on the other side. What do you think that did? Dante shrugged. I don't know. I guess we'll just have to find out. They moved through the door and down the stairs, opening a door to their right at the foot of the stairs. They entered into a room with a slowly lowering portcullis. Behind the portcullis is a metal double door and a double door opposite it as well. So that's what it does. Naruto had a look of enlightenment on his face, as if he had finally solved the world's greatest mystery. Dante shook his head. He was already used to this kind of random behavior. They quickly make their way through before the portcullis closes too far and out the door. The Naruto noticed when he walked out the door was the sky. In front of them is a drawbridge leading to the other side. We are outside the castle. I have a feeling that we are only just getting started. Naruto turned to him with a raised brow. Why do you say that? Mundus is known as the ruler of the underworld. But so far, we have only fought 2 powerful demons. So you mean that there will be more powerful opponents coming up? Naruto was not dumb. Even he had thought that their journey till now was a little too easy. Be on guard from now on. Hearing the seriousness in Dante's voice gave him a bad feeling since Dante was anything but a serious person. Immediately after crossing the bridge and stepping into the new area, the bridge rise back up, but neither of them found it surprising. The new area has a number of tall pillars standing parallel to each other. 2 have diamond-shaped tops while the other 3 do not, and there is also a divinity statue in this area. Standing in the middle of the pillars is a huge stone tablet and behind it is a stairway. Making their way down the stairs, they reached a wooden double door at the end of the stairs. Rumble rumble. On walking out of the doors they were confronted with a new enemy, the Blade. 3 reptilian-like demons popped out of the ground wielding shields and swords with a helmet on their head. Their body was a green color with scales growing all over their body, except for the belly area. Naruto looked at the new demons with a raised eyebrow. So now we are fighting overgrown lizards in gears. Dante sneered. I think they took it a little too far this time. They should have just stick to the walls. Naruto grabbed onto Purgatory, his eyes filled with killing intent. How about we cut them down to size? Agreed. The reptilian demons were very aggressive, lunging at the 2 of them with fast claw slashes. Sometimes burrowing underground and shooting their claws at them at long range. They also have a mid-air recovery move that prevents them from being juggled to death. Their armor protects them from weaker firearms, so they can only resort to using the grenade gun and shotgun. Out in the main area, double rows of cold blue flames burning on the ground show the way to an ominous dark archway with a raised portcullis. Naruto looked at the flames on the floor and smiled. Looks like they really plan on giving us a warm welcome. Then let's not keep them waiting any longer, Dante said with a smug look before they make their way through the arc. They walk out into a new area which appears to be the barbican of the castle. A collapsed entrance stood opposite them preventing them from moving any further. On the walls to their left and right respectively is a ladder leading to the 2nd level into a hallway that connects the 2 walls. Naruto frowned when he saw the collapsed entrance. Did we already outlive our welcome? Dante shook his head. It doesn't feel like it. He turned to Naruto and said. Let's take a look around. Naruto nodded. Okay. They will climb into the second layer, making their way to the hallway. The main thing in this hallway is another wheeled device. Activating this causes a stack of platforms on the far wall to arrange themselves into a spiral formation so that Dante can get up to a stone platform hovering high in the air. Naruto and Dante exchanged looks. Naruto pointed at the platforms and said, "First one to the top. The loser has to perform one request for the winner." Dante smirked and nodded. "Agreed." Then he raised 3 fingers and said, "On 3. Naruto nodded. He prepared to move across the platforms and reach the top immediately after the countdown. But nothing could prepare him for what happened next. 3. Dante moved before Naruto could react, jumping across the platforms and quickly using air hike to reach the higher ones. Wait. What? Naruto stood stunned for a few seconds before it dawned on him that Dante had just pulled a fast one on him. Hey. That's cheating. Naruto hurried after him, but unfortunately it was already too late. Naruto arrived at the top, which is a floating gazebo, to see Dante's arms covered with flaming gauntlets. Naruto had noticed 2 flaming run laps in a circle atop when he was making his way up. Dante marveled at effort in his arms. The heats the flames gave off didn't bother him in the least. These powerful fire element gauntlets will allow Dante to perform punches and kicks that will deal extra damages to whoever or whatever they come in touch with. Dante looked up at Naruto cheekily and said, "Looks like I won, kid." Dante's words snapped him out of his initial shock of seeing the new devil arm. Naruto's anger resurfaced when he remembered how Dante had played him. "Hey Dante. You cheated." Dante shrugged with a small smile on his face. "Sorry kid. But I won fair and square, so now you owe me a favor. Don't forget it." Naruto grit his teeth, trying his best not to jump Dante right there and then. After managing to calm himself down, though his frown still remained, he asked, "What would you have me do?" Dante took a thinking pose for a few seconds, then he shrugged. "I can't decide for now. I'll think about something later. First, let's get out of here." Naruto sighed in defeat. Fine. He had originally suggested the challenge in order to owe him a favor which he would keep as a secret weapon to use against him in the future, but it turned around and bit him in the ass. "I'm going to get him one of these days." Jumping down the platforms to fight the marionettes that had spawned on the ground, Dante used them as test subjects for Ifrit. The marionettes' fragile bodies couldn't handle the explosive power of the gauntlets, shattering them into pieces. Dante looked at the gauntlets with a hint of joy and excitement. He felt an excited shiver down his spine. "This thing's rock." A small ring of fire burst out around him, spreading out. Naruto shielded his face from the ring of fire. "Really, Dante?" Dante looked at him, eyes shining, not bothering to hide his excitement. "What? This devil arm is awesome. They remind me of the gauntlets I used to have." Naruto eye roll, and I'm supposed to be the kid. "Let's just go." "Okay," Dante said after getting his emotions back under control. They had just stepped outside the door when they heard thunder boom in the dark skies. They look up to see streaks of red lightnings converge together at one point in the sky before transforming in a giant demonic bird Griffin. Naruto marveled at the scene. What a flashy entrance. Dante nodded in agreement. Griffin landed on the edge of a building. Red lightning flashing around its body. It looked at Dante and said, Are you the human, the son of Sparta who challenges the darkness Mundus? Seems like you are already getting famous around here, Dante." Dante scoffed at him before returning his gaze to the demonic bird. "Flock off, feather face. Or you can stick around and find out the hard way." Griffin roared, sending a bolt that pierced the ground between them. Naruto's gaze moved from the smoking hole in the ground to the bird that had taken flight. "I take that as a yes." Dante grinned, his eyes trained on the bird making its way over to them. He held the grenade gun in his hands and said, "I wouldn't have it any other way." They dodged out on the way of the Griffin's dive. The Griffin didn't look disappointed that they managed to dodge its attack, rather it turned around and moved to dive again. Dante noticed this and used his grenade gun to prevent it from doing so. Hover me, Naruto charged in. Purgatory radiated a faint red glow. Naruto had added the 9 tails chakra to it to increase its damage output. The Griffin, not being a fan of close combats, used its wings to send out a gust. "Shit." Naruto cussed as the gust of wind charged at him. As he was already in its range, he could do nothing but get swept away by it. Dante continued to use his grenade gun to keep the Griffin at bay. It seemed to work as the Griffin was slowly pushed back. Not finding a chance to attack, the Griffin flapped its wings and jumps to another part of the arena to reposition itself. It releases an orb which descends to the ground. The orb unleashes 2 beams of electricity that spread out the arena and snap back together like scissors. Naruto and Dante, sensing the danger, jumped up in the nick of time to avoid the attack. Naruto felt goosebumps all over his body as the lightning had missed him by a few margin. They didn't have enough time to relax as while flying, Griffin droops his wings into a downward V shape and glides forwards, releasing clusters of lightning balls underneath him as he carpet bombs the arena in a straight line. The attack was easy for them to dodge as it was done in a straight line. The grenade gun in Dante's hand never stopped shooting. Humans. Lightning bolts rained down from the sky all around the arena. Naruto was unfortunate enough to be hit by an enormous bolt of lightning. Griffin laughed maliciously when the bolt of lightning managed to hit one of them. Naruto. The lightning bolt cleared up to reveal a half-kneeling Naruto, his body still emitting smoke. Purgatory stabbed into the ground beside him. He would have been badly injured if not for his timely use of the Kikbi chakra cloak. Seeing him unhurt with only a few light wounds, Dante directed his rage-filled eyes to the Griffin. He unleashed his devil trigger with full force. The power taking the Griffin by surprise. How is that possible? I'll make you regret ever hurting him. Dual-wielding Force Edge and Alastor, Dante attacked Griffin with a flurry of attacks. His DT granting him resistance to most of its attacks. Naruto watched from the sidelines, his breathing heavy. Unlike Dante, he needed time to recover his chakra, and it had taken everything he had to block that attack, but Dante was able to avoid them because of his lightning-fast reflexes. He had been avoiding saying this, but the truth was that he had been having trouble keeping up. First the Phantom, then the Dark Knight, and now this demonic bird. But like the further they went, the more powerful the demons become. I am starting to feel like a burden. Maybe I shouldn't have come. Seeing Dante go toe-to-toe with the bird drive that point home. After a few minutes of fighting, the battle finally reached its climax. Griffin and Dante clashed head-on, but in the end it was Dante who won their little tug of war. A slash from Force Edge sent it crashing into a wall. Impossible. How could I have lost? A look of disbelief appeared on its face. How could it have lost to such an inferior creature? It just couldn't fathom it. It's easy. I'm just stronger than you. But that shouldn't be possible. Believe whatever you want. You can think about as much as you want in hell. Force Edge gained a light hue to it. His body radiated Kai as he prepared to put it out to fit misery. Disappear. Overdrive flew out like a lightning bolt, rushing towards a target. The attack connected with Griffin, causing it to let out a pain-filled screech, but before the attack could do any real substantial damage, it disappeared in a stream of lightning. Sigh. He got away. A look of regret crossed Dante's face, but he quickly wiped it away. He turned around to see Naruto already back to his feet. Are you okay, kid? Naruto nodded with a depressed smile on his face. To be honest, he had been fine for a while. He had just been feeling a little down after nearly being taken out by a single attack. Dante nodded, ignorant of his inner conflicts, said. The bird managed to escape before I could finish it off, but it shouldn't be coming back for a while. Pushing his depressing thoughts to the side, he said. We should probably keep moving before any more shows up. I agree. I just hope we make it in time. With Griffin defeated, they make way to a door in the area with two alcove, and only one of them lit. Dante used Ifrit to ignite flames in the alcovian, the right-hand side of the exit door, causing the door to open. Going through the door lead then into a misty wooded garden. This place looks kinda spooky. Dante also looked around and said. It kinda of reminds me of when you still used to be scared of ghost. What? Naruto nearly stumbled and fall when Dante casually revealed one of his most embarrassing moments in his life. That was a long time ago. I was just messing with you, Dante laughed. It's not funny. What if someone heard you? Relax, kid. The only things here are these trees. Dante gestured at the trees around them. They make their way to small structure at the far end of the garden, with Naruto grumbling under his breath about stupid adults and their tendency to bully those younger than them. Dante ignored him and moved to open the door of the structure, which resulted in it sealing itself. Naruto blinked owlishly at this. Is it a trapdoor again? It is. Dante sensed something behind him and turned around to see the arrival of a group of marionettes, followed by a new enemy, the fetish. This is a much stronger and more durable marionette, which can block like a Bloody Mary and has a powerful flamethrower counter move, as well as the ability to project the burning weapons it carries like yo-yos. Dante raised a brow at the marionettes and said. Looks like the puppets still haven't given up. Naruto gripped Purgatory and grinned. And they brought their dad with them this time. A devilish smile found its way to Dante's face as he said, then let's go say hello. The battle with marionettes was like an adult fighting a child. They were completely demolished by the both of them. At this stage they could be considered as cannon folders, but they served to get Naruto's mind off his bad thoughts. Destroying the last of the marionettes released the seal on the door. Naruto sighed. Fighting the marionettes now was like a piece of cake, since they keep repeating the same moves. It made them easy to predict. Even the newest edition could barely make a difference. Dante placed Alastor on his back and said. I'd be honest. I'm tired of playing with his toys. That makes two of us. After exiting this area, they ended up in a small tunnel which leads to a room with a divinity statue and a stairway to the left. Heading down the stairs, they encountered 3 fetish which they quickly dealt with. Dealing with the fetish opened the sealed door at the end of the area. They encountered marionettes in this area and a fetish accompanying them. Behind them a plaque stood at the junction of 2 paths. Naruto walked up to the plaque to examine the words written on it. Dante stood behind him, watching his back. What does it say? It's a riddle of some kind. Wait, let me read it out for you. Valley of the Mist. One must choose the right path to enter the lost land. Only those who protect the weak light shall have the power to decipher the right path. Dante looks puzzled at the riddle. The weak light. What's the weak light? Before he could finish his sentence, a small ball of light flew out of the plague, drawing their attention. Whoa. Dante dodged out of the way of the light as it zoomed past. Fast. He turned his attention to the equally confused Naruto and asked. So do we follow it? I guess so. Naruto shrugged as even he wasn't too sure. They followed the light onto the left path. Whenever the light passes near an enemy it will be absorbed by the enemy and they will have to kill that enemy to liberate it. The light led them to an area with sin scythes, so switch to Thishitgun to deal with them. In this area, standing in front of the copy of the plaque where they released the light in the previous area. This area looks like a carbon copy of the area they came from. The third area is host to a pack of blades. The newest addition to Dante's Devil Arm, Ifrit, showcased its explosive power. Against this lowered demons, it was like taking candy from a baby. Once these are out of the way, they follow the light to exit the canyon. The light disappeared after leading them to the next area which is large and hosts 2 Cyclops. There are 2 of them so they split them between each other. As Naruto had fought and defeated the Phantom. This rip-off versions of it were child's play. It fired a shotgun-like burst of boulders from their mouth which he sliced in 2 with Purgatory. The red aura surrounded his body and he ran at the Cyclop with the speed of a bullet, merciless attacking it with series of lightning-fast attacks. The Cyclop could barely keep up with him. It could only stand there and take his attacks before it ultimately crumbled to dust. Once the 2 Cyclops are defeated, they walk through the archway leading to another area. They walk out inside a large greenhouse with a well-like opening directly in front of the door and are immediately accosted by a new enemy, the Death Scythe. This is the most powerful of the Sin-Death enemies. It is virtually immune to firearms since it can twirl its scythe to deflect bullets. It largely attacks by diving for a dashing swipe with its scythe and can also shoot out red beams that place rotating circular signs on the floor. If they touch one of these, the person will be flung into the air by a tornado-like pillar that springs up under his feet and the Death Scythe will rush to his location to attack. The pillar will follow the person around after being triggered and keep tossing him into the air for several seconds if it can. The Death Scythe's head is the target as like the Death Scissors, it is capable of blocking. Since guns were practically useless they could only go up and personal with their blades. Dante's sure hike and Naruto's chakra-powered jump allowed them to attack the Death Scythe mid-air. Under their relentless assault, it finally couldn't take it anymore. A helm breaker from Naruto was the last straw that broke the camel's back. Once the Death Scythe is defeated, the 2 of them at the well-like hole in front of them before exchanging glances. Dante smiled and gestured for Naruto to go first. After you my good sir. Naruto rolls his eyes at him and muttered underneath his breath. Stupid Dante. He jumped down the hole. This leads to a confined underground area where Naruto are set upon by waves off blades. Dante jumped down in time to assist him. Using the Grenade Shotgun in Naruto's case, they managed to deal with the wave. When the initial wave of blades is defeated, Naruto turned to Dante and glared at him. What? Next time? You go first. Naruto left him behind and walked through a broken section of the wall where the second wave of blades had broken out from. Dante followed behind him hopelessly. They proceed up through the wall and jump up the shaft and found themselves in a partitioned-off area. In here is with the object on a raised platform in a dead end. Dante pick up the sign of chastity which is a taxidermic organ coated by crystal. Naruto poked the crystal with a quizzical look. Looks like a brain. Then do you want it? You can never have too many. In fact, I think you need it. Naruto frowned at Dante's indirect insinuation that he was brainless. He glared ominously at him, but Dante acted oblivious to the situation. He kept the sign of chastity in his spatial storage and jumped back down the shaft and into the underground area. Dante was promptly attacked by the blades that had reappeared while they were away be attacked. Naruto watched him fight all the blades on his own. He told himself that a man with brains can handle everything himself. Dante on the other hand was happily giving the demons hell to notice anything. It was only after the last demon fell of this deadly weapons did he notice Naruto standing a few distance to the back. He raised a questioning eyebrow and asked. What are you doing all the way back there? Just enjoying the show, Naruto said with a tight smile. As if. Returning to the greenhouse and go out through one of the 2 doors at the far end. They walk through the lower door into the room with a small arc bridge and a little pedestal under the structure directly ahead of the lower door. There is a cup on the base protected by a powerful light. Naruto cleared the dust on the pedestal and read the words on it. Prove yourself worthy with the sign. Dante pulled out the sign of chastity from his pocket and said. This should be it, right? There's no harm in trying. Dante nodded and placed the sign of chastity in the open hole on the platform. The light disappeared, releasing the chalice, which Dante picked up the chalice only for the room to lock down. Naruto, who was already on high alert, looked around and asked. Did we accidentally trigger a trap? Ha. They turned around at the same time to look at the familiar figure standing on high ground. I don't think that's the reason. Nelo Angelo pulled out his sword and charged at them. Dante moved in to block the attack. He glanced at Naruto and said. Support me. Naruto, who had been waiting to hear those exact words, answered enthusiastically. Got it. Not taking any chances this time, Dante went full DT from the start before engaging Nelo. Naruto didn't hold back either. His five-tailed cloak enveloped his body. If Dante could lose to this demon, then what hope does he have? While Dante had Nelo Angelo's attention, Naruto moved in and out attacking his blind spots. Nelo Angelo had to bear the brunt of their attacks. If fighting Dante alone before was considered hard, then things just went up another level. Their coordination was flawless, like they had been practicing this for a long time. Having had enough, Nelo released his aura, pushing the both of them back. Before they could attack him again, he teleported to another location. And this time he didn't just do it once, but on multiple times. Shit, Naruto loudly cussed. His eyes could barely keep up with Nelo. Swoosh. He heard an attack coming from behind him, but he could barely react. However, his cloak was able to react in time on its own and managed to block the attack, but the force behind the attack sent him flying into a pillar. Nelo Angelo, seeing this opportunity, rushed at him quickly to finish him off. Naruto watched the sword making its way towards him and prepared for the worst. A purple aura surrounded the sword as it descended down on him. However. Clang. Dante blocked the attack with Alastor. His demonic aura clashed with Nelo's own, cancelling each other out. Have you forgotten about me? Dante smirked, though in his demonic form it looked more like a devilish grin. Move. Dante flipped backwards just in time. A glowing red energy wave passed underneath his body. Time seemed to slow down as his body and the red slash stood parallel to each other. Dante smirked as he recognized this technique. Not bad, kid. Nelo, however, wasn't so lucky. The overdrive slammed into his unprotected torso and sent him flying into a wall, kicking up a dust cloud. Naruto smirked when he saw his attack connect. He had taken advantage of the time Dante used to hold back Nelo to launch an overdrive. He actually didn't expect the technique to hit, but it managed to catch him off guard. Is it over? Naruto stared into the dust cloud, trying to see through it. To answer the question, a colorful ball of fire flew out of the dust cloud and up into the sky before disappearing in a lightning stream. I guess it's over, Naruto sighed in relief as his chakra cloak receded. His gaze still lingering at the spot Nelo had disappeared. Dante turned to him and gave him a light shove and said, "You did good, kid." His form returned back to normal. Thanks. Naruto displayed a proud smile when he heard the praise. Let's find our way out of here. Once Nelo Angelo has been dealt with, they continue to climb up to the top level and walk to the alcove at the far end of the room. The platform above where Dante got the chalice, with another platform on the other side. Dante did a long jump right to the entrance, followed closely by Naruto. In here is a statue of the torso of a knight with a helmet on. In front of it is a small platform with a small round circle in the middle. Dante placed the chalice in the circle that happens to fit. A loud clattering noise assaulted their ears coming from behind them. What was that? Naruto looked suspicious. Dante, who was not a stranger to how demons worked, could already guess what it was. Dante turned to look back the way they came and said. It came from back there. Let's check it out. Dante led them back to the floor where they came from to find the sealed doors now open. So the chalice was a key and a trap at the same time. Naruto looked puzzled at this. Dante, however, nodded. Pretty much. Dante walked through the door and Naruto followed behind him. When Naruto walked back out the door, he was a little surprised as the huge area they had come from had now changed into a narrow underground tunnel with a few marionettes scattered around which they dealt with. Past these tunnel, the path opens out into a large cavern dominated by a huge wrecked ship with 3 masts. Looks like a ghost ship. Naruto said as he observed the abandoned ship in the dock. Dante nodded and added. I think it would fetch a nice sum of money in a museum. Hey, Dante, how should we climb on board? Only you can jump that high, Naruto asked, since there was no board connecting the ship to the dock. Dante shrugged and a mischievous glint appeared in his eyes as he followed behind Naruto. Guess we will have to make our own entrance. Naruto walked over to the edge to look at the water when he heard Dante's words. Make our own entrance. How? Like this. Before Naruto could react, Dante kicked him in the butt with enough force to send him crashing into the side of the ship. Dante nodded, satisfied with his idea and quick thinking. He observed the hole like an artist in a gallery before jumping into the hole. Anti-ee. An enraged shout came out of the ship. Dante jumped into the ship through the hole and was quickly attacked by a series of furious attacks from an enraged and embarrassed Naruto. Ahaha! Dante laughed mischievously as he countered Naruto's attack with Alastor. After a few exchanges, Naruto was pushed back by Dante and was about to charge in again when Dante stopped his with a raised hand. "We have company." Naruto glanced around and finally noticed the blade demon standing around. As much as wanted to continue the fight and teach Dante a lesson, he knew that they had a job to do, so he chalked it up in his list of embarrassing things to do to Dante to enact revenge. Since the blades took away his opportunity to enact revenge on Dante, he showed them no mercy. The fight could only be considered brutal, even Dante had to take a step back. "Since when did the kid become so scary? I would apologize, but it's just not my style." He saw Naruto juggle a blade to death. It pain-filled screech echoing around before it was split in two. One that wandered too close had its head blown off. It didn't take long for Naruto to deal with the blades. He turned back to Dante to see him holding a large gun that looks like a machine gun. "What is that?" "Oh, this." Dante held up the gun for Naruto to see. "It's a needle gun, but it only works underwater. I found it while you were busy," Dante said before keeping the needle gun in his spatial storage. "Since it only works underwater, then why keep it? We don't know what to expect, so it might come in handy." "If you say so." Naruto frowned and turned around to walk up the stairs in this section of the ship. Dante quietly followed behind him without hiding the smirk on his face, which only served to infuriate Naruto. He could tell that Naruto was still mad from the cheap shot earlier. They walked through the door at the top of the stairs which leads onto the deck of the ship. "This is a huge ship," Naruto exclaimed. True to his words, the ship could be considered big since it has 3 separate masts with a cauldron on each part and on the main mast. The ship was split into 3 different people arts housing each masts. The view from outside was nothing compared to inside. "Are we really going to search around this huge ship?" "Bong." "Ow." Naruto held his head and glared at Dante, who had knocked his head. "What was that about for? Use your head for once, dummy." While he stopped whatever he was about to say when he saw where Dante was pointing at. He looked up to the door at the stern of the ship with 2 glowing swords crossed over it. "Hey, wait." Dante was already walking up the stairs, so he quickly ran up to catch up. "Hey kid, there's something written on it." Naruto grumbled under his breath. "Can't you read it yourself for once?" Dante raised a brow when he heard that and said. "If I am going to do everything myself, then why did I need to bring you along?" "Just read it." Naruto walked up to the door with an unpleasant look on his way. It reads, "I am the ship that carries the wandering souls on the brink of the underworld. Protect the ship and you shall be given the fire of Saint Elmo." "The underworld, huh? Looks like we are on the right track," Dante said, thoughtful expression. "Protect the ship. From what?" "Squirring." Clank. Naruto blocked a side that appeared out of the door. Sparks flew around as the blades made contact. "I take it that it's from you then," Naruto said as a body slowly emerged out from the door like a spirit. First it was a skeleton hand followed by the rest of its body before the death scythe fully emerged. Fire surrounded the scythe in its hand. Dante pulled out Alastor when he saw the death scythe fully surface. Lightning dancing around the blade. The two of them quickly got to work on it. The death scythe slashed down on Naruto, who parried it with purgatory. This stunned the death scythe, which Dante immediately took advantage of. Alastor dished out a series of lightning-fast attacks, not giving the death scythe any time to react before he ended it with an aerial stinger. On cue, 3 more death scythes appeared around them, engaging in a fierce battle. The red chakra cloak appeared around Naruto with a single tail serving as his defense. The red cloak tail blocked out any attacks that Naruto might have missed. Dante was like a punching machine with Ifrit on. The death scythes were reduced to nothing more than punching bags for him. "It's mine." Naruto and Dante charged at the last death scythe together. Naruto spinned on his heel like a saw and Dante charged up Ifrit before jumping at it. Buzzsaw. Pick 13. The 2 attacks connected and the death scythe let out a death screech before shattering like glass. "I had that covered," Naruto shouted. After all, Dante had just stolen his kill. Dante picked his ear with a disinterested look on his face. As if. "I clearly finished it with Ifrit." The ship suddenly vibrated, interrupting Naruto's sentence. Blue flames lit up 3 cauldron on each section of the ship and on the main mast. Naruto looked around and noticed that the ship has started moving. It moved down a small waterfall, causing him to stumble and nearly fall. "I guess we are on our way to the underworld now," Dante smirked. The 2 swords blocking the entrance moved apart, unsealing the doorway. Dante was about to reach for the door when he saw a huge shadow pass over him. Holy shit, it's that funking bird again. Naruto shouted when he saw the griffin fly overhead them to the front of the ship. Time to die, you insects. The griffin flapped its wings, the winds caused by it extinguishes the flames on the ship, causing the two blades to block the door again. This is the end of the road for you. Naruto held purgatory at the ready while Dante frowned and said. That's not for you to decide. Roar. This fight won't be like last time. Egan. Griffin fired off a barrage of lightning bolts at them from above. Naruto dived out of the way, using his tails to propel and maneuver himself around the lightning bolts. Dante opened fire on the griffin using the grenade gun to deal heavy damage, cancelling out its attack. Naruto didn't slack off either, firing overdrive whenever he had the chance. Griffin launched an energy wing at Naruto. The glowing red bird attaches itself to him with a yellow lightning before hitting him and launching him high up. The griffin, giving up the opportunity, attacked Naruto with a swing of its wings. Funk. Naruto blocked the attack with purgatory, but the force behind it sent him crashing into a side of the deck. Dante switched from the grenade gun back to ebony and ivory, which unleashed a torrent of fire, showcasing their firing speed. Shit, Naruto cussed as he watched the griffin flying overhead. The hit just now left his hands numb. You okay, kid? Dante shouted from his position, not taking his eyes off the griffin. I'm fine. Screech. Griffin flies directly over the ship, screeches, and lands between the main and mizzen masts, forcing the two of them to move out of the way. Griffin summoned up a storm of lightning around him similar to his death attack. Bad idea, birdie. Dante chuckled with a grin which was reflected by Naruto as the two of them opened fire on it like a couple of trigger-happy gun junkies. Arg. The griffin fly off the deck due to the amount of damages it was receiving from the two of them trying to escape their encampment. Naruto. Dante called out and Naruto immediately knew what he wanted. Naruto held out one of his tail for Dante to jump on it before he was thrown at the griffin. Dante switched out Alastor for effort when he got near Griffin. Griffin, not taking any chances, opened its mouth to shoot a bolt of lightning at Dante, but a red chakra tail wrapped around it, mouth sealing it shut. Not this time. Naruto smirked. The red fiery flame emerged from effort, ready to consume whatever it came in touch with. Dante unleashed a flurry of attack on Griffin like a Gatling gun, leaving it at his mercy. Dante finished off the attack with Ifrit Meteor technique, sending Griffin flying back. Roar. The lightning around its body dimmed as it steadied itself midair. The attacks from Dante did a lot of damages to the Griffin, causing it to screech angrily at them. This is not over. The Griffin flew away after leaving it parting words. Dante scoffed at the retreating bird. See you around, pretty bird. That was exhausting. Naruto sighed in relief after they finally managed to drive the bird off. Though he doubted that would be the last time they see the bird again. The red chakra cloak around his body receded. With nothing stopping it anymore. The light of Saint Elmo lit back up on the ship, opening up the captain's cabin. They walk inside the captain's cabin, which has a divinity statue with some objects and antiques scattered around. Whoa. Not a bad collection. Naruto nodded fondly at the antiques in the cabin. Obviously the captain must have been a collector. I guess even the dead has hobbies. While Naruto was checking out every antique in the cabin, Dante, however, had his eyes on a golden statue next to the globe on the right-hand side of the cabin, with a staff in its hand. The staff had two snakes coiling around it. Drowning out Naruto's excited chattering, Dante picked up the staff. But as soon as he did, the ship shook violently. What the hell is going on? Naruto looked around cluelessly. Even Dante looked puzzled. Did something hit the ship? Swoosh. What the? Water rushed into the room through a vent near the floor on the side of the room with the divinity statue. Shit. It was then that realization struck them. The ship is sinking. Hold your breath. Dante shouted when the water level reached their neck. The water quickly filled up the cabin, swallowing them whole. Naruto felt something touch him from behind and turned around to see Dante pointing at the vent in the floor before swimming towards it. Naruto quickly followed behind him. They swarmed through the vent and ended up in the lower deck, which is the gun deck. 3 blades moved around in the water. Naruto looked conflicted. How were they supposed to fight underwater? But either way, he still pulled out limbo, even though he knew it was a futile attempt. He was about to swim towards them when Dante stopped him. He turned to look at him with a questioning gaze when his eyes landed on the needle gun that in Dante's hand and suddenly remembered. The needle gun was actually an underwater weapon. MMH, let me handle it. Although Naruto couldn't hear him, he could make out what he was trying to say, so he nodded. Dante didn't delay any further and quickly swam towards the 3 blades. The blades noticed him when he got within a certain range of them and attacked. Dante also didn't pull any punches and went all out with the needle gun, piercing the blades like a pinata, killing them. Once they are defeated, Naruto followed Dante down a stairwell into the hold of the ship where they encountered more blades. Just like before, Dante quickly dealt with them. Naruto, who had nothing to do, noticed the hole inside of the hull and gestured to Dante, who quickly followed him out of the sinking ship. Swimming out of the ship, Naruto saw light at the top of the water and eventually followed it until they came out of the shallow pool of water, soaking water and dripping outside the ghost ship, which had once again ran aground and into a dark cave. Naruto immediately gasped for air once he made it ashore. Unlike Dante, he couldn't breathe underwater, but he could at least last longer than normal people. It took him a few seconds to catch his breath before observing his surrounding. Where the hell are we? I don't know, Dante shrugged before he noticed an open doorway in a corner of the cave not far away and said. But I think we'll find out answers there. Naruto followed his outstretched hand to the entrance. He nearly facepalmed when he saw the doorway. How could he have missed that before? The burning torch by the entrance was a dead giveaway in the dark and empty cave. Naruto sighed. Then we should keep moving. They moved towards the entrance to find a passageway leading up, where they encountered some marionettes that they quickly destroyed. They proceeded up a flight of stairs and through a door at the top of the stairs. Naruto and Dante emerged in a corridor. Proceeding down, it leads into a curved area with a spiked wall and odd patterns of holes in the floor. They move through the opening to the left with a skull engraving on the wall and the barred-off shaft halfway along this cross corridor. Going all the way across leads to another long curved hallway. Everywhere they passed had small holes in the grounds. When they got to the end of the corridor, they saw a wall of spikes with a skeleton pinned to the spikes holding a shield. Dante walked up to the skeleton, picked up the emblem shield without a second thought. The skeleton's right arm stood up against the wall, which Dante noticed. He grabbed it and pushed it down, and just as he suspected, it acted as a lever, and he has an idea of just what it might be for. Naruto was observing the small holes in the ground when the floor started moving. Grrr. Shwing. What's that? The sharp sound drew that attention, and the both of them look up as one to see spikes popping out of the holes in the ground. Oh shit! Naruto moved back just in time to avoid his head being pierced. His heart skipped a beat when the iron spike missed his head by a few inches. It's a trap. He shouted as if it wasn't obvious already. Dante tossed the shield into his spatial storage and ran through the hallway, maneuvering the spikes. Naruto followed closely behind him, mimicking his every move. He almost got a hole punched in him one too many times. Returning back to the hallway where they saw the barred-off shaft earlier but was now opened up. The elevator takes Dante into a gazebo-like structure in front of a scenic waterfall. That was close, Naruto sighed in relief. If it wasn't for his quick reflexes, he would be on a spike right now. Just thinking of it was already enough to make him shiver. I know, right? I wouldn't want to see you skewered on a spike. Or on second thoughts, maybe I do. Dante chuckled with a mocking smile. Naruto gritted his teeth, wishing he could wipe that smile off his face, but he just decided to ignore him completely. He still hasn't forgotten about that little stunt Dante pulled earlier. He decided to bide his time. As the saying goes, revenge is best served cold. What? No, come back. Dante stared at Naruto's back with a suspicious look. It wasn't the kid's style to take an insult lying down. Maybe I'm just overthinking it, Dante shrugged before following behind him with a small smile. Once Dante got within arm's length of him, Naruto swung purgatory at him, which Dante had anticipated. Dante effortlessly ducked underneath the swing. Although his swing missed, Naruto wasn't discouraged. He had already expected it to happen. That's why purgatory was only a distraction to buy him enough time to pull out limbo. Naruto aimed the muzzle at Dante's face and pulled the trigger without a second thought. Bang. The loud gunshot echoed around the area. The bullet flying towards its intended target without pause. Naruto held a victorious smirk on his face as Dante was in close range of the gun. However, a feeling of despair quickly washed over him when he saw Dante display an identical smirk. At that moment, time seemed to slow down as Dante deflected the bullet with the flat side of Alastor that had appeared in his hand at some point. Too slow. Stinger. Shit. Naruto immediately took a defensive stance when he heard the name of the technique. If he had an option, he would have opted to dodge it, but because they were in a close proximity, so he could only defend against it. Dante zoomed at him in a flash, leaving after images behind with Alastor held in a stabbing position. Naruto blocked the attack with Purgatory, but the force behind it still sent him flying backwards. Naruto stabbed Purgatory into the ground to slow himself down. He raised his head only to see a blade appear in his line of sight. He looked past the longsword at the smug look on the face of its owner. You lost again. 37-0. Naruto stood up and fastened Purgatory back to his back and said. One of these days, Dante. Dante scoffed at him before walking to the crack opening in the wall. Just keep telling yourself that. Ha ha ha. Naruto followed quietly behind him with a displeased expression on his face. Being reminded of his ridiculous losing streak was like a stab to his heart. I swear. One of these days, Dante. The exit leads out into a cliffside area where a death scythe resided, which was quickly and efficiently dealt with. After dealing with the death side, they made their way down the cliff and through a tunnel which leads to a vertical area where they jump up a few ledge, reaching an open doorway at the top. They pass through the doorway to reach a huge area with a narrow rope bridge. For a demon castle, it sure has a nice view. Naruto smiled at the peaceful scene, as they could practically see the sea from the side. The sea painted red by the setting sun. The view was almost enough to make him forget that they were currently in a demon castle. They spent almost an hour moving through the large area before eventually finding the exit door leading to a courtyard area with a stair and a door at the end of it. The courtyard is also occupied by a large group of marionettes, supported by fetishes, which took them a short while to finish them all. After which, they walk up a flight of stairs to reach a door at the top. Past this is a right-angle room followed by a circular room with a door. What the hell? Naruto gasped in shock as they walked out shockingly led them back to the main courtyard where they had first fought Griffin. Did we just go all around only to end up back here? Dante could understand the shock Naruto was feeling. He was also like that the first time he encountered something similar. I guess we just took a huge detour. Naruto turned to stare at Dante like he had just grown another head. Huge was an understatement. They could have probably avoided all of that. Dante gave him a side view and smirked. I know what you are thinking. But even if we had tried to follow this way before, the door wouldn't have opened. Oh, Naruto scratched his head sheepishly. That was what he was thinking. But it felt embarrassing to be so easy to read. There's no need to be ashamed. I remember there being another door around here. We should get going. Okay, Naruto nodded and they resumed their journey. And just like Dante had said, they found a passageway with another door on the other side of courtyard. They decided to first proceed to the covered passageway because Dante sensed something there. They found two glowing doors with shield motifs on either side of the main doorway, which Dante can use the emblem shield on. He placed it on one of the doors to unlock the door. From there on, their journey involved a series of twists and turns throughout. Down this path they found an item, Luminite, which Dante claims to only grow in the underworld near a pile of fetish parts at the start. Walking down a flight and through the door at the bottom of the stairs in this room. They ran through a long corridor with spikes poking out of the way every few minutes and a rotating floor while fighting a few sin sides that popped up. After getting past all the spikes, the corridor doubles back on itself with a pool of strange purple fluid visible below a small platform jutting out of the wall. The fluid will slowly drain their energy if they were to step on it for too long. Jumping to the small platform allows them to see an equally small pedestal with an item on it, which happens to be a pair of lances, which they had to jump across the platforms to reach. The return trip back was more faster since there was no one to slow them down. When they got out the door to the room, rather than lead them to the main doorway, Dante led them towards the other door to the right with a shield motif also on it. By now Naruto was already used to how the demon castle works, so he didn't question Dante's decision. The second path was like the first path, but with everything in the opposite direction. The first room is largely the same, but this time there are no enemies in the area with the rotating floor and only two sets of spikes, and the both of them are instead tasked with activating a pair of wheel devices to drop two platforms down in the area with the pedestal in order to make a path to it. Due to the moving floor, they had to repeatedly hit the devices as fast as they can to activate it and lower the platform. Once activated, they remain so. They are not timed. On this path there is no damage floor. Making their way to the pedestal, they found in the nightmare superscript 2 lying on it, which happens to be a weapon with a unique shape. Taking it off the pedestal forced the platforms to lift back up. So they had to take a short detour around before retracing their steps back to the main room, where they were ambushed by two sin sides. The battle was more of a one-sided beatdown than a fight. Naruto fell on his butt after killing the last sin side. Damn. All that work just for a stupid piece of metal, he sighed as he slid off the wall and onto his butt, wiping the sweat off his brows. They had been running non-stop for a few hours. If it wasn't for his monster stamina, he would have collapsed by now. It's all thanks to the 9 tails, if not his legs would have given out by now. Come to think of it, when was the last time he had a proper meal? He turned to look at Dante sitting against the wall adjacent him with a bored expression like he wouldn't care if someone were to fall over and die right in front of him. Come to think of it, Dante has been in this demon hunter job for a long time. Is this what he goes through? Unbeknownst to him, his evaluation and respect for Dante just went up a few more levels. Dante acted ignorant to the look he was receiving from Naruto. To be honest, he could have kept on going for a few more days without rest, but he had to consider the kid, that's why he always gave them breaks in between. There's a reason why he always works alone, since others couldn't keep up with him. It was already shocking enough that Naruto could keep up with him. Is it the work of the demon inside of him, or does he just have a monster stamina? After an hour of rest, they resumed back their journey. Dante walked up to the main door with a decoration resembling 2 knights on it and a space in their hands like they were holding something. Dante pulled out the two lances and placed it in their hands, triggering a mechanism that opened the doors, allowing them entry to a massive, ominously empty amphitheater. "Is that a giant magic circle?" Naruto exclaimed excitedly when he saw the glowing blue-green magic circle in the middle of the arena and moved closer to get a better look. "Be careful. It looks like a pain in the ass to make." Dante rubbed his chin as he moved closer to observe the magic circle. "Stop being paranoid," Naruto scoffed at him before bending down to touch the magic circle. He felt a light shiver up his body, followed by slight headache. "What is it? Are you okay?" Dante asked when he saw Naruto acting weird after touching the magic circle. "I can hear someone speaking to me inside my head," Naruto answered after shaking off the weird feeling. "What did it say?" "Offer a sacrifice to the Colosseum. It shall connect the Wheel of Destiny." "The Wheel of Destiny?" Dante stroked his chin and thought before he sensed something in the sky, so he quickly warned. "Naruto, look out." Crackle. Naruto dived out of the way in time as a bolt of red lightning hit the spot he had been standing on a few seconds earlier. After narrowly avoiding the attack, he looked up to the sky to see red lightnings gather together, forming a huge sphere before exploding outwards to reveal. Griffin. Naruto spat out the name like saying it left a bad taste in his mouth. The Griffin didn't exchange any words with them and immediately attacked them with a diving attack. The both of them dodged the attack before Dante looked at the Griffin with a beepy expression. "I guess you won't be giving us a little speech this time. What a shame. I was already getting used to your pretty voice. The both of you will." Boom. Dante shot a grenade at it, mouth interrupting it up, which only served to infuriate it. "Roar. Now that's more like it." Dante relinquished in it misery, which made Naruto sweat dropped at his idea of taunting the Griffin. "Seriously? You just had to rile him up. What? Nobody likes a boring boss fight." Griffin flapped its wings and flew up into the sky before performing a bombing run, carpet bombing the whole arena with lightning balls. Naruto maneuvered through the wave of attack. The Griffin stick to the air and kept attacking them with a series of lightning attack. Enough of this. Naruto, growing sick of the attacks, dashed forward and jumped at the Griffin. His five tails chakra cloak formed around him in an instant and Purgatory gained a red hue. "Fall down to earth, you big fat chicken." "Hey kid, wait." Dante's warning fell on deaf ears as the deed was already done. "Foolish ant. Die." The Griffin gathered a ball of lightning inside its beak before shooting it at Naruto. "Oh shit." He hurriedly placed Purgatory in front of him, wrapped his tails around himself, and braced for the attack before a giant bolt of lightning struck him, sending him crashing down to earth. Dante facepalmed. Impatient. "Die, peasant." Griffin dived down at Naruto, lightning surrounding his body. The Griffin descended at him like a comet. No backing down. Refusing to back down, Naruto grabbed Purgatory and readied himself. Boom. The green beam of light hit the Griffin before it could reach Naruto, pushing it a few meters away. The green beam of light caught Naruto by surprise and he turned to look at the other person there besides him and the Griffin. High eyes immediately wanders off to the nightmare superscript 2 in Dante's arm. "Dante. I could have handled it." Dante glanced at Naruto and scoffed. "Not in the slightest." He turned to Griffin and smirked. "How about you dance with me?" The Griffin, who had managed to steady himself not long ago, turned to face Dante and roared angrily. "You will die here before you see Lord Mundus." "We'll see about that." Dante smirked beepily. He transformed into his DT from before, aiming it at Griffin, and faint green light starts to gather around the mouth of the barrel. A smug look appeared on his face when the nightmare superscript 2 fully charged up. "Order up. Chicken wing." Boom. The green beam draw a straight line towards the Griffin, moving at breakneck speed. The Griffin moved out of the way of the attack at the last second, causing it to ricochet off the wall behind him. A red orb appeared in the Griffin's mouth and he fired off a double check at Dante. "Oh, Naruto exclaimed as he was already familiar with this move. Two beams of electricity that snapped together like scissors at the two of them. "Move." Even without Dante saying it, he didn't plan on waiting for the attack. He wrapped his tail around the top of a pillar and pulled himself towards it, avoiding the attack. Dante flew up in his DT form and the attack passed underneath him harmlessly. That was close. "Roar." The Griffin flapped its wings, sending out a gust of wind all over. Naruto jumped down from the pillar as the gust of wind obstructed his view. "He seems a little mad," Naruto said as Dante, still in his DT form, landed beside him. "Be careful, I can sense his power fluctuating. You insignificant creatures. This place shall be your final resting ground." The whole amphitheater suddenly darkened before lightning strikes at the ground around the Griffin, almost like I was trying to keep them out. "Disappear." Crackle. "Look out." Naruto and Dante rolled out of the way as twin bolt of lightning hit the ground. He didn't have enough time to think as another hit the ground, followed by another. Chains of lightning kept homing in on them. The attack continued for a few seconds before stopping. "Shit." Naruto made to move, but a hand on his shoulder stopped him. He turned his head to look at Dante only to see him pointing at something. His eyes followed the finger and he was left speechless. Right in front of him was a faint red light, his body was a few inches from touching it. Shit. I nearly fell for a trick. He noticed the same faint red light all around the amphitheater, lightning arcs across it. Not so fast. The Griffin opened its mouth to unleash another double check, but Dante fired off the nightmare superscript 2 at it, causing it to dodge, which disrupted its technique. Hahaha. You missed. Not quite. Naruto appeared above him, purgatory glowing with a giant red aura. Overdrive descended down on the Griffin's head, sending it crashing down. It let out a loud painful screech as it crashed towards the ground. Dante appeared underneath the Griffin and attacked with a magma drive, snapping its head back. Naruto descended headfirst from above the Griffin with purgatory. His tails coiled around him and he spined like a drill. Hive Tails Demon Corkscrew. Naruto crashed into the back of the Griffin, pushing it back down to the ground. A small dust cloud blew from the point of impact. The Griffin laid motionless on the ground, unmoving. The attack from Naruto just now managed to tore off its left wing. Is it dead? Although Naruto asked the question, he himself didn't believe that it could be so easy. And just as he thought, a few minutes later the Griffin got up from the ground. Ruoer. You will pay for that, insects. You both will die. Another thunderstorm fell upon the arena, homing on the two of them just like the last time, but this time their trajectory easier to predict. Dante switched back to the grenade gun, shooting grenades at Griffin, while Naruto used limbo. The Griffin was forced to take TIE bombardment head-on. Its torn talon left it defenseless and lacking in the power it once had. The bombardment continued for a few seconds before Dante exchanged looks with Naruto and nodded. Try to keep up, kid. Ruuer. The red orb appeared in its mouth and it shot out a double check at the two of them. The two dodged the attack before running towards the Griffin. Dante pulled out Alastor, which arcs with lightnings. The Griffin sneered when it saw them running towards it. Die, insolent creatures. Bolts of lightning shot towards them from the sky, bombarding the whole arena. Oh shit, Naruto and Dante maneuvered through the blasts of lightnings. One of them nearly managed to hit Naruto, but he dodged at the last second. That was close. Naruto and Dante skid to a stop when they got within range of the Griffin. Purgatory and Alastor gained a red and blue hue respectively. Crosscut overdrive. Swoosh. The both of them unleashed their attack at the same time. The overdrive overlapped with each other, forming an X. The Griffin raised a talon to block the attack, but the overdrive cut through it before cutting through its body. The Griffin let out a loud pain-filled screech before falling to the ground in the middle of the magic circle. Dante's DT receded when he saw the Griffin fall to the ground after taking their joint attack. I guess the early bird took the wrong worm. Hey Dante, I think it's still alive. Naruto said when it saw its slight movement. At that movement the magic circle gave off a faint light and the Griffin started floating up, taking the two by surprise, thinking it was going to get up again, only for a stone pillar to fall from the sky and hammer it back down to the ground. It let out another pain-filled screech. Its eyes eventually wandered off to the two who had caused it misfortune. Its gaze, however, lingered on Dante. Yours are definitely the power of Sparta. Even more so. But I cannot let you live, for I serve my master, Mundus. You can't fight with that wound. It's already game over for you. Mighty is the power of Mundus. Master. Please grant me one last surge of power to finish him. Crackle. Boom. Up to this point Naruto had done nothing but listened in on their conversation. So imagine his surprise when he saw 3 glowing red orbs in a triangle formation appear in the sky behind the dark clouds. Griffin chose this exact moment and spoke. Master Mundus. That is Mundus. Naruto went wide eyes. The demonic power he felt from Dante was nothing when compared to Mundus. So this was the so-called Demon King. Griffin, you have failed me. You are no longer worthy. Immediately it said that it unleashed a surge of purple lightning upon the Griffin, ignoring its plea as it turned it to ashes. Nahahaha. Mundus let out an evil laugh before disappearing. So that is that power of Mundus. Naruto stared back at the spot where the Griffin had been a few minutes ago. At 3-eyed. Crackle. A bolt of yellow lightning hit the ground behind them and took the form of Trish, who walked up to them looking speechless. You beat Griffin. Maybe it was a little too easy for you guys. Click click. Trish tightened her lips when she saw the 2 gun barrels pointed at her, courtesy of Ebony and Limbo. You guys don't seem happy to see me. We would if you hadn't just bailed on us from the very beginning. Tell us, what are you hiding? Trish ignored the question and turned to look at Naruto, the kid who had managed to exceed her expectations and defeated the Phantom. From her research and hypothesis, the kid seems to inhabit a demon, but he doesn't appear to be possessed. So it could only that the demon is sealed in his body. To be able to survive that. Those sort of rituals had long been lost in the sands of time. Demons are usually sealed in artifacts that took years to make and fortify in order to seal a demon, talk less of a powerful one. Human medium were even more rare if not non-existent. And she could tell that the demon sealed inside the kid was a very powerful one. So that begs the question, who could have carried out such a powerful ritual? Foregoing her thoughts, Trish let out a small smile and said. I have been busy. Click. The sound of a gun being cocked brought her gaze to the other person there with him. Dante's eyes stared back at her with a serious expression. She could tell that he was on guard against her. You say that, but how can we be sure that you are not working for Mundus? Do you actually believe that I would bring you to this island to stop him if I was in servitude to him? Naruto furrowed his brows while Dante grabbed the red amulet handing around his neck. His thoughts wandering back to the three eyes he saw in the sky. Mundus's heinous ways make me sick, killing even his own like they were nothing. He's the one who took the lives of my mother, my brother, I'm sure of it. My mother used to always tell me that my father was a man who fought for the weak. He had courage and a righteous heart. In the name of my father, I will kill Mundus. And if anyone stands in my way, no matter who they are, I will cut them down as well. Although Naruto has heard this before, the emotions he felt from Dante this time was completely different. Almost like he won't rest until he made do with his promise. Trish, however, was hearing it for the very first time, and his words caught her by surprise and left her speechless. She felt a weird and indescribable feeling in her body. Unable to tell what the cause was, she quietly stepped back and disappeared in a flash of yellow lightning. Dante didn't pay her any mind, cause nothing will stop him from getting his revenge. Naruto, however, frowned when he saw her leave. She left. We'll deal with her later. First, let's see where this magic circle leads. So this part ends here. Alright, that's it for today's video, guys. Let me know in the comments section how was the story, and also don't forget to like, share and subscribe. I will meet you in another video. Bye bye.